Hello everyone, it's John Michelle. It's time for the Finding Your Light Devo at Thursday, roughly around 12:30 noon. So here we are again. This is our third week in a row. That's pretty good. I feel pretty awesome that we've been able to do it 3 times. And hopefully we'll just be able to keep going and keep growing it. So remember to keep sharing and things like that so more and more people can hear what we have to say. And so today we're going to be talking about becoming yourself. And it's a really big topic, but I'm not going to talk too long on about it because, as you know, I like to keep it short. So anyhow, today the verse we're going to be talking about is 1 Corinthians 7:7. And it says, each person has a special gift from God of one kind or another. And I really like that verse because I know that, at least for most people I talk to, and even from my own inner monologue, there's a lot of negative messages out there, and it can be easy to feel like you don't have a gift, or other people have more value than you, and things like that. I think it's a common theme among most people that I talk to, and even in my own heart at times. So I wanted to talk about this whole concept of becoming yourself, because I feel like it really gets lost a lot in popular culture, even in the church. And so I want to talk a little bit about what it means to be your real self. So anyhow, might as well start in the beginning. I feel like we all are living our lives kind of like our own little movie, our own life story. You know, if someone were to be writing it down, we each have our own tale to tell. Of the things that have happened to us, of our victories and of our defeats. And it all starts when we're born, and the setting is your family, your life. Maybe you didn't have a family, maybe your life was dangerous, who knows. We all have a different tale and a different story. Some of them started off really great and then they went downhill really fast. Or sometimes they start off really bad and then they got better. Or sometimes they started bad and they stayed bad. And I'm sure that all of us fall into those categories somehow. But the thing is that each and every one of us have our own story, and different from anybody else's. It's very rare that you'll find people who have even, 2 or more similarities to their life story and what their life was like growing up. So first of all, I just want everybody to maybe start to think about their story and realize that even though your story might be different from other people's, it has value, and it's been the end result of who you are, along with God's plan and who God made you to be. Now, sadly, a lot of us may not be living the life of the person that God made us to be. And that's the whole point of today's Devo, is we want to get closer to living the life that God made us to have. Not the life that maybe other people made for us, or that we made for ourselves, or that circumstances just kind of threw at us. So anyhow, with my own personal story, I know for me that I think I started out pretty excited about life. I can see pictures of myself as a little girl. I was always, stirring up stuff and singing and all sorts of stuff, being loud and trying to get attention. I think we all do that as children, most of us at least. And but at some point in my life, I guess I started to accept defeat in a lot of things, and I started kind of hiding. So I had to write my story. From one of my counselors suggested this to me. Yes, I said one of my counselors. I've had more than one. So he said, write out your story. And this is something I really encourage everybody to do. Take some time, find a journal, and write down your story. Say, for me, February 16th, 1982, Dawn was born at 3:30, whatever you know, and then start to write your story. Because the more that you're able to dig up and look at from when you're young, it's going to help to shape your understanding of who you've become today. Some things you like and some things you don't like. And we want to push those things that we don't like out and become more and more who God made us to be. So for me, I would say probably the biggest thing that happened to me when I was younger, even though now there's probably a long list of things that happened, is that when I was 7 years old, my little brother passed away. He was 5, and he passed away in a drowning accident. So this was a really awful thing that happened to my family, not just to my mom and dad and me, but to all of our, my aunts and uncles, my whole family. Just really rocked us really hugely. And I was pretty young. I was only 7, but I still have some vivid memories of when it happened, and obviously of the gargantuan difference and the hole that was in our life after my brother passed away. And it changed me forever, and it changed my family forever. And some things that changed in my family we didn't even see come out to the light for years and years in the future. And first of all, I just want to suggest to everybody, families, when you have a great loss or any kind of imbalance, and I think all families can be imbalanced at some point, you know, look into that for your kids, not just for yourself, but also for your children. You know, look into finding them counseling, anything you can, to help them be able to process the loss. And whenever they come upon trauma, it's so freaking important, because the things that happen to you when you're a child are the things that shape your personality and your fears, your thoughts, your anxieties for the rest of your life. So it's super important. And it can be really hard, because when something bad happens, everybody is suffering, you know, everybody's just trying to survive. So maybe if you are a family member or a friend of a family that is going through something hard, you know, whatever you can do to step in and try to help give support and you know, just help them, because they're probably drowning, you know, at this point, when they're in the middle of their grief. So anyhow, obviously this was a big change that happened in my life and in my family, and it really impacted me greatly. And even though I was young, I knew that things were broken in my life and totally wrong, and I just wanted things to be better. I didn't know how to fix it, and I couldn't fix it, but something inside me wanted to fix it so that things could be good again. And I know, because I wanted to forget, you know, I wanted to forget all this pain. And so that became some big themes in my life, that I wanted to fix things, and then I wanted to forget the bad things. And that set me up for some trouble in my future life, as future me happens to know. But anyhow, there are all these themes in all of our lives where we've experienced loss and different things like that, and they've written, you know, things on our notepad of our brain that we continue to live out to this day. And then as I grew up, trying to be a fixer, I always was trying to have a smile on my face and forget what was going wrong, and I wanted to try to make everybody happy, because everything was so broken in my life. I wanted to bring a smile, maybe I'll entertain them somehow, and I would just, you know, try to forget the bad things. And then I went on to high school and middle school, and that's a really tumultuous time for all of us, no matter what's happened in your life. But, you know, everybody else started telling me things about myself. I don't know if you've had the opportunity for other people to tell you what they think about you. But these words are really powerful, and they stick with you forever. I can remember all sorts of stuff that people said to me in high school, even though it was many years ago. I think Mark Twain said that, you know, I could live for, you know, many years on one good compliment. But I think it's even worse when you get negative comments and things like that, because those stick with you, and they're kind of become like they go over and over in your brain like in a soundtrack. And I can remember when a dear friend of mine, and we're still friends and she's wonderful, but we were all in high school together, all trying to live that life and be cool or something, find that popularity that seems so unattainable. And she said, "Dawn, you're really nice, but you know, you're kind of a lot. So if you could just, like, maybe if you're a little bit more quiet and, you know, and act cool, you know, then I think your life would be a lot better." And so if anybody knows me, they probably know exactly what she's talking about, because I really don't embody this whole cool vibe thing, because maybe I am a little bit too much or over the top. A little eccentric maybe, but now later in life, I've come to value the things about me that are different, and I try to turn off those voices when I'm like, hey, play it cool. Because all those cool people, you know, they don't typically have real friends. They just have people who are trying to be close to them and trying to get their coolness to rub off on them, but they're not necessarily really connected to people and don't really have support. All those people are just there, you know, for status. So anyhow, those kind of messages came into my life and made me think, Dawn, you need to shut up. You need to stop talking so much. You know, don't tell them all your crazy ideas. Don't be so loud. I can be very loud. You see how big my mouth is? It was just born that way. But I can speak really well over a crowd if your microphone goes out. So see, there's life skills that works for too. But anyways, so by the time I was done with high school, I had all these messages, you know, the things that I grew up when I was young, and then the other messages I was getting from other people, all these ideas of who I was, who I should be, and what was the right way to live, and then even stepping into becoming a Christian in high school. I didn't grow up in a family that went to church a lot or anything, but when I was in high school, sophomore year, I ended up starting to go to church and learning more about Jesus, and I just knew that I wanted to be like Jesus because he was so wonderful. And so I gave my life to chasing after him. But my old ways, my fixer and forgetter personality, all these things that were kind of instilled in me from little, it kicked in, and they interwove with everything that I was learning at church. And what I learned was that I needed to fix myself. Who I was not right, and I needed to just kind of throw out the old me, which some parts of that are true in what we read and all that, but at the same time I just threw my entire self out. So I became a perfectionist. I was trying to do everything right the first time, and I had these feelings that I just wasn't good enough. And I'm sure that those were feelings born from me when I was young, but now they're wrecking havoc on my relationship with God and everything I thought I needed to be. And pretty soon, before I knew it, I was this person who wore a mask, and I was the mask, and all I thought about was making the mask look good and making sure everybody knew everything was just fine. I was doing great, and I had it all together. And that was what was most concerning to me, was that my mask looked right, and that people thought that I was, just this perfect Christian girl, and that I had it all together, and I was seeking God with all my heart, but I had all these hang-ups and all these emotional traumas and things like that were just buried deep within me. But the most, the thing that was most concerning to me was how it looked on the outside, and that was my life. And I just all day was like, okay, I'm not being too much, am I? Have I fixed everything? Is all of me gone? Am I being annoying? Am I being too loud? Am I, just quiet down? Am I being perfect? Am I fixing things? Am I fixing things for everybody else? Is everybody happy with me? And boy, did that become the mountain in my life. And it's called people pleasing, as the Bible says it. Or fear of man, sorry, is what the Bible says, but people pleasing is a good way to say it in our common language. And I just worried what other people thought about me most of all, no matter what the situation. Like, I was so afraid of God and in the dark parts of myself and what other people thought of me, that was just what I lived under. I lived under that fear. And so as a result, the real me, little Dawn, she was like just, buried back beneath many layers of glass, and you probably wouldn't even know who I was. She might peek out every once in a while, just a little, but then she would go retreat because she'd be so scared. So anyhow, I don't know if anything I've said has resonated with you and the things that you live with in your life, but maybe you find that you also live behind a mask, and you're afraid to show your true self. One of my counselors said that it's a strange juxtaposition in people, that we want so much to be known, but at the same time we want to hide so badly because we're afraid that if people know who we really are, that they won't like us and that we'll feel rejected. So anyhow, towards further along on my journey, this whole mask I was wearing just got me into worse and worse trouble, and deeper and further away from living the life that God wanted me to live and being myself. I only did what I thought other people wanted me to do. And if you're willing to be a blank slate, people will just come along and they will impose their agendas on you left and right. And pretty soon you're doing everything you are is who they want you to be and not who God wants you to be. And I felt like I got there by being weak and timid, but really my fear was so strong that was my greatest strength. And I was giving in to these people instead of following what God wanted me to do. So really it was kind of like idol worship. I made them God in my life. And I felt like a victim, but really I was the one making the choices to put them first. And I think that's one of the reasons that helped bring me out of it, is because I was so scared of doing the wrong thing when I realized that it was very sinful, which to sin means to miss the mark. I was missing the mark majorly by letting other people be my God and walk all over me, and I had lost who I was. And maybe I didn't need to throw out every part of me, in order to become perfect. Maybe I needed to figure out what was there in the beginning that God put in me, that he saw something good. And those are the things that I needed to share. And the same thing with you. God, each person has a special gift from God. of one kind or another. And maybe it's not being up on stage and singing and stuff like that. I know that seems to be what the world really glorifies. Maybe something, something else that's so much more powerful. I think in my life I've come to understand that hopefully my life is more about being an encourager, and that's my real purpose. And I can do that anywhere, at any time. I can do it on stage, or I can do it, with my son on the playground, or I could do it, if I was in an office. I could do it anywhere. And there are things about you that God put inside of you when He created you, that He had just in mind for this whole world to benefit. There are things that you have that we need so badly. But when we hide behind these masks and we let our fear and our traumas and all the scars that we have be the thing that controls us, then, that's all it'll ever be. We'll never be able to reach that full potential that God has for us. So I just want to encourage you guys to go through your life and write it out if you need to, and look for all those places where you seem to be zooming along and then suddenly you came up against a wall and you started to hide and started to retreat. What are those lessons that you learned when you were a kid that you should live by that were not good lessons? And then start to replace them with God's truth, the things that He says about you. And you can start with this, that each person has a special gift from God. Each person. This means you. Even you who think, I've got nothing, everybody else is so talented, I'm nothing. You haven't found it yet, probably because you've been looking at everybody else instead of, yourself. Maybe you've been looking at what everybody else has, and you haven't even discovered the incredible thing that's inside you, waiting to be shared. So I hope you guys are doing really good. And for those of you who are struggling, I just want to pray for you, let you know that I think about you all the time. And I know that God is doing something big, and that's why we're here together, because He's working on us. I'm praying for all over this world. There's so many people hurting. Just don't forget to pray. I think we live our lives according to our fears instead of who God made us to be. Even those of us, I know for me, I've been trying to pursue God for a long time, but when something goes wrong in my personal life, I try to figure it out. I try to find the answer to fix it myself, because that's, back to my old default settings. And I'm not living what God says for me to do, because God says I should pray. So if you're forgetting to pray for all the people in the world who are really struggling right now, Puerto Rico, Texas, some places in Florida, all over the world where people are suffering and need supernatural help from God, remember that God is a powerful God, and He made you. He made you special. He made you with a gift, and you do have power. And He says we should pray without ceasing, which I think that means constantly. That person you're talking to in your head, maybe it shouldn't be yourself. Maybe it should be God, because Jesus lives inside you. So maybe you're talking all day to God, and that's the way you're praying without ceasing. And in those prayers, be praying for others and be looking towards others and looking to love and help them. And that's going to make your life and your world bigger and bigger and bigger, instead of smaller and smaller and smaller, which is what the masks do. Okay, you guys, thanks for tuning in. Remember to share this on your pages and everything like that, so that more people can hear it, because I know not everybody can tune in the middle of the day of Thursday, but this just happens to be when I can have a little quiet around the house. Uh-oh, I lost you for a second. Hopefully you can see me now. I don't know what you missed, but it probably wasn't that important. Anyhow, so remember to share with everybody, and just be thinking about your story this week, and thinking about the places where you may have started to hide, and just start pouring through God's Word, and the people who love you, look for them to reflect on you as well, to help you understand and start to learn, what are your gifts that you have that you should be sharing and not hiding. Hide it under a bushel? No. You gotta let it shine. Okay, you guys, I'm gonna get off before I get any more goofy. You guys have a great day. Take care.